Good morning and God bless. Excuse me. Let's get to work. You ever judge from a distance like you're immune to seduction? Like you could never be them? That's the problem. You still think it's about them. This ain't about a mogul. This ain't about a victim. This is about how your system responds to the gospel of sex and power. Warning. If you've ever judged her for staying or him for seducing, then you've never sat with your own seduction. This episode ain't about shame. It's about subconscious exposure. This doctrine is for those brave enough to admit that even if you were not them, you carried them. You are not exempt from the allure. You are not too righteous to be Diddy. You are not too strong to become Cassie. You just never been offered enough stimulation to betray yourself that way. Side effects may include cold sweats from hidden agreements, sudden clarity on your private contradictions, a moral come to Jesus without the altar call, and deep shame followed by deeper authorship. Welcome to Raw for Epoch 2, Day 155. Today's gospel: sex, submission, power, and the mirror nobody's ready to hold. Let's get into our concept overview. Sexual power is a system, not a sin. There's a Diddy and Cassie in all of us. Here's what you learn. The Diddy trial is not an anomaly. It's a revelation of how power seduces authority. Why sex is the most exploited spiritual circuit on earth. How imprinting through socio-sexual consciousness wires your body before your beliefs are even formed. How we all want power, but few admit how far we go once we get it. How both men and women are seduced into roles they swore they would never play. And why submission isn't just a female problem. Men are Cassie too. Let's get right to our visual metaphor. We call this the guard at the gate. Picture this, imagine this, immerse yourself in this because it's gonna hit. Everybody says they would not be Hitler, but nobody asks if they would be the guard or the witness or the assistant who signs the NDA or the friend who knew but said nothing, or the man who kept scrolling after watching somebody else's daughter get turned into content. Yeah, evil isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just ignored. Let's get into my personal perspective. Let me speak plainly in case you thought I was judging. All the way straight. I'm not above this. I have authority now. I've always felt like I've had authority. A wife, a movement, power, voice, presence. I have gifts. But I also have memory. And I know who I was. Worse, I know who I could have become. Yo, I was spiraling. My soul was all the way out of control and unfiltered. It was terrible. So let me say something that most men won't. The scariest thing about power, and don't get it twisted, all people have power. All men have power. It comes in varying degrees, but as a man, you have power. So the scariest thing about it is how easy it is to hide your flesh inside your influence. Now, when you finally get the authority you prayed for, the platform, the respect, the following, the title, the exposure, the favor, it doesn't test your vision. It tests your discipline. Now, there were moments in my life I was proud of what I was building. I've always been proud of what I've been able to build, but ashamed of the fantasies I was still entertaining. I've stood in front of crowds knowing I just conquered a room, only to wrestle with a thought that crept up from a place I thought I already buried. 25 years, 17 married, I've told my wife, I love you, and I meant it, always meant it, will always mean it. But I've caught myself staring too long at what was never mine to consider. And what hurts most is that it didn't even feel evil or wrong in the moment. It felt natural, accepted, like it was what is supposed to be done. That's the real war. Not between right and wrong, between natural and ungoverned. And if I'm being even more honest, I used to think I'd never get caught in some scandal or exploit, not because I was so righteous, but because I knew how to cross the line without leaving footprints. I could charm you, impress you, inspire you, while hiding the version of me that still wondered, yo, can I get away with this? Could I indulge just enough and still keep the crown? And I pray, and I'm thankful and grateful. I'm not casting aspersions. This is not judging, condemning. This is the reality that we'll get into as far as exposure, how we're built, and the pressure. It's everything about me is me. I accept full accountability. But it's a large reason of why I offer God. And the mercy that I've submitted that version of me to its rightful cage. The mercy to identify and understand the fracture, the pain, the imprinting, the residual, through the mercy of God. And even still, I check the lock daily because I know this, I've learned this, I've come to this realization. My past wasn't just lust, it was ungoverned power. And power looks for a place to release. And I still have that power. I still love my power. I still crave and absorb and build more of it. But I release it intentionally now. The place I committed myself, which is into my marriage, into my purpose, into my presence. It's there. We all have it. And if I don't direct this power, yo, the devil in me will. And he won't need a scandal. He'll just need a moment, a very brief moment where I forget who I was and who I am. So I stay submitted, not because I'm scared of falling, but because I know how far I'm capable of falling if I don't remember. Yo, there's a Diddy in me. There's a Cassie in me. And if I don't confront them daily, they'll just run the whole show, man. And the reality to this, what I really want to convey more than anything, because of how we participate in this socially and how exacerbated and accepted it is, if you find the mercy of God or whatever it is, the mercy within yourself to just remember who you are. Remember what it means to be committed to yourself. Forget the language on marriage, relationships, all those things. It's the commitment to you and who you said you would be, what you prayed for, And all that then becomes bestowed upon you when you become a symbol and an image and a reflection of levels of principality, virtuousness, ethics, code. If you come and have that realization, you find that light in the way that I did, or in the way that is offered to you in varying degrees, the light is there for everybody. When you remember, you'll never forget who you were. And remembering and understanding you can't forget who you were, you'll have to live with that forever. So if there's anything else to incentivize you aside from this is who you said you would be, this is how you committed, this is what it means to be committed. Commit and don't abuse the authority bestowed upon you by God. When you've done enough, it doesn't have to be egregious. It doesn't have to be a freak off. I said it. None of that is necessarily a sin. It's system programming, which we'll get into momentarily. But this is truth. This is life and the wisdom that I can offer anybody. You have to live with you. And you know everything. And when you remember everything, there's no way you could ever want to live again with anything that isn't what you would choose to then remember. Let's get into our black book. The circuit of seduction. This is really critical to me. I think we debate this ad nauseum and we instill and inflict our opinions and judgments, which are valid. You should have one. But let's talk about consciousness. Why climax becomes our heaven. Sexual energy in consciousness is circuit 4 in the Prometheus framework. If you want to reference it, the Prometheus ring. We talk about circuitry and how you can reach level 8 of consciousness, which is meta programming. Consider it as the authority. You are influenced along the way, and circuit 4 is sexual, socio-sexual. That is a framework, and there are others. I think Freud established his entire governance on psychology through sexual implications. And across the spectrum, Jung and any other psychology, I shouldn't say any other, but frameworks of psychology will tell you that sexual experience is massively indicative of what you are tolerant of when it comes to the sexual space, right? So let me keep getting specific. The socio-sexual circuit that governs how we define power, pleasure, and intimacy, circuit 4. It's not just the act, it's the imprint. You were exposed before you were educated. We learn sex through music, videos, jokes, locker room talk, body counts, trauma, silence. So when somebody says, yo, how could she stay? Or, yo, how could he do that? The real question is, how couldn't you? Let's break that all the way down. Circuit 4, the socio-sexual imprint. This is the circuit of mating, tribal seduction, status expression or status expression, and identity via sexual connection. And most of us are stuck in it. From the moment you are exposed to pleasure, especially in secret, shameful, or intense ways, add that to what you're learning about the trial. Secret or intense. You see it as shameful now. You weren't there. Not many people see it as shameful while they're experiencing it. When you're exposed to this heightened level of pleasure sexually, you are now being programmed. And even if you've had previous experience to wonder how could you get there, there's a lot of ways you get there. You just haven't been tapped on the shoulder yet to say, yo, step over the line into the VIP section. Let me have a conversation with you. You think you would say no. That's why the Hitler and the guard was so significant. Somebody signed the NDA. Somebody saw it and didn't say anything. Not casting aspersions. You ask yourself, how could this happen? It's a network. It's a system. Everyone's been programmed. So from the moment you're exposed to pleasure worth repeating, especially in secret, shameful, or intense ways, imagine how intense that experience was. You've been programmed. All right, check this out. If sex made you feel loved, you chase it. If sex made you feel powerful, you use it. If sex was how you avoided pain, you can't live without it. Secret societies, both literal and cultural, know this. They don't just use sex to entice, they use it to indoctrinate. The goal isn't just climax, it's to equate climax with God. Put yourself there. Let me be clear. The devil doesn't need to take your body. He just needs to convince you your orgasm is your altar. That's why you're still drawn to things you know dishonor you. That's why ads use seduction. That's why celebrities sell you freedom that ends in bondage. Because when you're trapped in circuit 4, you're not just addicted to sex. You're addicted to the idea that somebody else can give you your divinity. But God don't climax you. God calls you. And if you need climax to feel called, then you're no longer sovereign. You're sedated. I pulled a line out of the book, Romans 1:25. They exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worshiped and served created things rather than the Creator. That's the trap. Sex is not evil, but when you serve it, you lose your crown to your craving. It becomes acceptable consciously. In fact, it doesn't just become acceptable, it is what you begin to expect. You submit to the rhythm of your patterns and your habits. That becomes habitual. We can debate till we're blue in the face about how could you. But again, the level of exposure, the power, the seduction, the climax. Do you understand the power of the climax? It's the strongest energy available to all of us walking this earth. I'm simply trying to broaden perspective. If you are incentivized through this sexual experience, as deep as a freak off, whatever you want to call it and label it, the islands and etc. It's like I said in the overview, this is not an anomaly. This has been going on for read some things, man. How people really created certain groups and how they created heaven through sexual encounters. We're gonna get into how to later so we can pinpoint this for ourselves. But let's talk about consequences of inaction, because there's consequences. You know, there's consequences. And it's bigger than just being on trial in front of the whole world. Consequences of inaction. The future you that worships your own abuser. If you don't confront your sexual imprint, you'll judge what you secretly crave. You'll keep outsourcing your pleasure to porn, people, or power. Your marriage will feel dull because your memory is pornographic. You'll raise kids who either fear sex or abuse it. You'll continue to consume heaven through other people's pain. You'll become a god in the machine, applauding bondage disguised as beauty. And one day you will ask, why did I never escape this? And the answer will be simple. You thought orgasm was heaven, but it was just a hologram. There are consequences. Here's how to lock daily remembrance. Let's move on and not stay there and break free, however you want to break free, presuming you even think you need to break free. This is how we would lock it. Start with this, and I had to come to grips with this. I rehearsed this over and over and over for this one word. Say the word sex out loud without shame. Own it. Why are we so fearful of it? Apparently, we all do it and think it in some capacity. Even those who go into some level of faith and priesthood, you think they don't think it? You think they don't pray on it? Say it out loud without shame. It's also beautiful. It's how we procreate, right? Admit your input before you try to rewrite it. Admit it. Confess when your thoughts drift to yourself, your God, and your mirror. Stop pretending you're above the urge. Confront it and author it. Audit your environment. What triggers you? What traps you? How about this? Refuse to consume what you wouldn't want your daughter starring in. That gives me all kinds of uncomfortable feelings. Commit to singularity, not just in body, but in intention and desire, attention and desire. Talk to your partner. Talk to God. This can't stay secret and ever be sacred. We're going to get into our phone tap. I think of great significance. And I'll say openly, 25 years, 17 married, my wife and I, again, are starting to evolve the intimacy conversation. It's turbulent, dog. It's turbulent. It's not, I haven't perfected it in any way, but we are like in the opening seals of broaching our, or re-engaging our comfort around that, right? Just, you go through things, you have children, you have all these things, right? You're influenced by what you're influenced by. You're learning to become more spiritual. And my wife's credit, because I'm sure she's the one that inspired this episode. She's been much more spiritual. We talk about our souls, relinquishing our souls and keeping our souls together and connected. It's not always through sexual experience too. It's releasing it intimately in any way. Speaking about things you shouldn't speak to other people, right? This can't stay secret and never be sacred. I work very, very hard on ensuring that there's not one little secret that I can't open up and be honest about. I think there's some things that you think you gotta learn to process your thoughts. And as you're going through your programming, understand, oh, this is how I was exposed growing up. I talked about that, right? When we're gonna get into it again, where you ask yourself, where were you first exposed to sex? You gotta understand that there's years and years of socio-sexual circuit programming. That takes a little while. Also, we have to understand all of our thoughts are not evil. They're just thoughts. I can dismiss them. I can accept them, acknowledge them. Let's get into our phone tap, our ARR, creation, covenant, loop. You got the call. Now move like it's recorded. You know we always start with an audit. Everyday principles. Let's get into the memory of our sexual experiences from a socio-sexual circuit perspective. Say that 5 times fast. Audit. Ask yourself this. Where were you first exposed to sex? Was it sacred or was it a scene? Did anyone teach you to govern desire or just suppress it? Significant. That initial exposure, go back to it. Appreciate it. Understand how it governs your experiences up to this point and how it will continue to govern your experiences for as long as you continue to be able to have the experiences. Then you want to hit them with the remix. We get to the thoughts. I think sex is private might be a thought. No, try this for a thought. You think it's secret. You might be thinking, I think I have control. No, you have preference, but your wiring controls you until you override it, which might lead you to think, I can't help it. I'm just wired this way. No, you are programmed. You are imprinted. Rewire your desire by consciously targeting your pleasure. You cannot pretend like the sexual desire does not exist. But if you have someone with you that you should be sharing sexual pleasure with, refocus all your energy there and watch how amazingly positive that returns energy towards that desire with that person. And it's not just like the porn, the ads, the way we dress ourselves, it's all very sexually driven. And if you're not subconsciously understanding, it's not about like, don't neglect it. Don't front like the world is not full of beautiful people. My God, we're all beautiful people. I can acknowledge it. There's beautiful people everywhere, built amazingly well. God is phenomenal. Not for me. I made the choice. I focus all my energy in one direction when it comes to that desire sexually. I'm not saying it's not hard. I'm not saying there aren't lapses. It's very easy, especially when you go through things. You have a little fight, you have a little disagreement. You've probably built up habits that happen when you do that. You got this so much unpacking we have to do, but it starts with knowing I'm gonna keep my browser history clean. I'm gonna stop outsourcing this. I'm gonna stop stepping out. I'm gonna step back in and have that conversation. Yo, I read Jordan. I was listening to Jordan Peterson. Him and his wife, I think, have an agreement at least once a week. Have an agreement. Let's not front like it's not difficult to maintain it. It's hard. Yes, you're working. Yes, you're grinding. Yes, you're growing. Yes, for women who might be premenopausal, for men who are losing testosterone, for kids that are 3, 4, 5 kids. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things. It doesn't. You can't close the gap unless you talk about it in some capacity. And it might start as an argument. I can relate to that. Yo, I'm frustrated because imagine you being programmed a certain way that society told you this is how you get it. Imagine it being available at your fingertips and then you cut it all off. Your brain's gonna get very mad at you. So I had all this energy, the most aggressive, powerful, wonderful source of energy. I can go release it here. Now I'm saying, nope, don't go there. Watch what happens. You're gonna get frustrated. So the conversations might start in an argument, as an argument. That's cool, but at least it started. But the point is, you rewire your desire by consciously targeting your pleasure. And when you can only go, not that you can only, when you make the conscious choice to commit yourself to go only in one direction, you'll get creative. You'll start thinking some things. How do I know? I'm telling you from experience. Then you want to re-record. Let's get into our action identity, and I want to break it down categorically. Let me start with my creators. Stop hiding lust inside your content. Start building with purity, not perversion. Redirect your sexual energy into output. Creation is climax without regret. I can relate to this massively. When I did some research and I try to figure out how do I do this? How do I get better? How do I, rewire, reprogram, recommit myself? Creation, the fact that you become aroused when you think sexually. How do you know? Your body parts start to do things to tell you I'm aroused. Wow, you have foresight into what could possibly happen, right? Oh man, this might happen, and this, me and this might be doing this, and so you get aroused. Creation, so that's energy. Why? And that leads to you're really supposed to procreate. That's what it's for. You're trying to create. You're creating. That's what happens when two people come together. Technically, right? That's at least the goal. When you're thinking about your future and you're thinking about your life and you're thinking about how you want to get better, that's the same creative energy. You're thinking, you're aroused by it. So you can actually channel that when you feel creative, that sort of sexual energy, or the sexual energy you might be redirecting somewhere else to a browser or whoever. Go journal, go write something down, go lift the weight. It's energy you have available to you. You can redirect it, and it's powerful. And for people who create, go write a script, go be prepared to post your content, go live. Teach yourself different ways. That's a real thing. Circuit 4, right? Socio-sexual circuit. For my entrepreneurs, stop using sexual validation as proof of success. Build something so sacred it doesn't need to be flaunted. It sells. It's like trillions of dollars in the industry. I get it. But until we, like, you could, I'm one of however many billion. My thing is, the more we build the same type of ways to build success, the more we understand that these things are not anomalies. They're occurring even behind the scenes. That's why we kind of get so, it comes to light and we're like, oh my God, because we're all thinking something like that in some ways. We all understand that it's going on, and it comes to the light like, oh my God, look, We're selling it all the time. And that's part of my reason I talk about the socio-sexual circuit. It's subconscious. So you're thinking about it without thinking about it. And then people sell you it. And you're like, why do I keep doing this? Because it's embedded in you, into your conscious. They're feeding it to you and everything that they serve you. I'm not saying this wrong. I'm saying it's a system. Corporate leaders, stop grooming through access and attention. Start mentoring through standards and silence. You know, I had to really learn this. And you go into programs and you got to be very conscious. It's not even that it goes all the way. The touching, you know, it's sensitive. It's sensitive. When you're a leader with authority and you have a title, people are naturally subservient to you. People naturally release themselves spiritually to you. People naturally feel that you sort of have a level of dominance that comes with the title, especially in corporate environments. Just be careful with that, is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Everyday people, all of us, stop excusing your browser history like it's private. Start governing your body like it belongs to a kingdom. If you've watched this and said, that could never be me, yeah, you missed the whole point. It already is. There is a Diddy and a Cassie in all of us. But only one gets to stay. And the one you let stay becomes the one who raises your legacy. So stop judging their island. Start ordering your own. And you own it or be owned by it. You either run the system or the system runs you. Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Do you and stay rich.